This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Thursday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you for the next couple hours. We're going to dive into more of the Paris Olympics, and we will be keeping tabs on Winnipeg Skylar Park, who just in the last half hour advanced to throughout the repechage, as the term goes. She will fight for bronze coming up in the next hour, so we'll keep you up to date on that, whether we're going to have a little Olympic hardware coming back to the peg for Taekwondo star Skylar Park. We'll also discuss the other big news out of the game. Our beach volleyball girls playing for a gold medal. Ben Steiner is going to join us coming up from CBC Sports. He's doing a great job following all the events. We got a medal in weightlifting today. We'll discuss the relay teams on the track, what happened to Andre DeGrasse, all of that and more. A little bit later on, I know there's some people going, I guess there's not much Bomber talk this week with the team on the bye. Oh, no. I am more than willing to talk about the Bombers. I could talk about last Thursday's game basically nonstop until next week. Scott Billeck's going to pop in. We will talk a little bit of Bombers at the bye. We'll also get into a little Jets off season, see what he has to say about the Olympic Games. It should be fun. And then later on today, in their final guest segment, in the second hour of the program, Stephan Peterson's coming on. Now, this is a little bit of a different segment that we normally do, but I think you're going to really, really enjoy it. He's the director of a new movie called The Death Tour. And the Death Tour is a term given to probably the most grueling tour in professional wrestling, period. Throughout northern Manitoba to the most remote indigenous communities. And Tony Condello, famous Winnipeg promoter, started this many years ago, and it is referred to as the most grueling tour in indie wrestling, testing the strength and grit of all. And in a lot of ways, people that are trying to become professional wrestlers for a living cut their teeth doing this. And, in a lot of ways, Chris Jericho said that it hardened them for what was to come in the world. And it also makes a huge impact on these communities. So, listen, it's winter, it's freezing cold, they're sleeping on floors in gymnasiums. It is not glamorous at all, but it makes for an incredible story. And this movie's coming out, it's debuting in the next month. So we're going to have Stephan Peterson, the director of it, on to talk about it. Really looking forward to that conversation. And then we'll get to the Cool Bet lines. Just finished up in the lock shop with Maddie Awanek talking about the week in the Canadian Football League, and we put together a little parlay. We've got some juicy combo cards up as well for the weekend. So we'll get to all of that a little bit later on, but we'll start it off with the Olympic Games with Ben Steiner coming up in just a minute. Do not forget, if you haven't checked it out already, the new CFL 110 is also up and available, brought to you by our friends at Garage Living Winnipeg, 204-999-1234. To get working on revolutionizing your work and play space in your garage, give our pal Pat Kanuga a call. Check out before the game tonight or heading into the weekend with all the latest stories in the Canadian Football League with myself and Jeff Hamilton that debuted yesterday evening here on the channel. Also want to thank our friends at Coolbet, Princess Auto, Wallace & Wallace, Canadian Club, F Apparel, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, Consolidated Supply, the Beer Can, along with Next Door and Hoagie Boys, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. Another 1-0 win last night for the Fish. Man, their pitching's been amazing this year. Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs. We'll get to a Breezy Bend golf update from the Olympic Games. Nothing happened at the Wyndham today as Tropical Storm Debbie rolls in. They will not be playing today. And, of course, we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Auto Corp. Welcome to everybody in chat. Thanks for joining us live on YouTube today. And a shout out to everyone making Winnipeg Sports Talk part of their summer grind, listening on the podcast. Let's get Remis in here and get this party started. What's going on? How are you?
Yeah, is it summer? out there a bit of a rough one today. Maybe a signal
Ugly.
that, you know what, the hot days of July winding down, NFL season, the preseason's kicking off soon.
That is fake news, though. That is fake news. It sucks today outside. It's like 14. It's a little rainy. It's very windy. This is not a great day to be on the golf course. Tomorrow's going to be relatively chilly at 19, but then we roll in. We got a beautiful week coming up. Saturday, 23, sunny and 26 on Sunday, and then sun, 27, 28, 27. So don't be freaked out and think that school's starting tomorrow, folks. This is just a little blip, and we'll be back. Although you are right, Remis. It feels like the NFL is pretty close if you go outside today.
Yeah, I mean, keep seeing fantasy previews and all that on my X feed. So get ready, start scheduling your drafts, reserve the date. But it is Summer Olympics, and we do have some good news. It was Schuyler Park has advanced to the bronze medal bronze medal match. So that'll be coming up very soon. I think 1:30-ish. So we'll have our eye on that moving forward. But been watching Olympics all day. So getting into the routine now. Like, I'm in the routine and it's almost done. It's on CBC diving this morning. Some big track and field this afternoon with the 200-meter men's, women's 400-meter hurdles. Going to be very good. And, CFL Week 10. And, always room to talk Bombers. Although, you have to have Scott. He had some interesting Jets notes, I thought, in his mailbag in the Winnipeg Sun.
Well, we'll certainly get to all of that. You mentioned getting sucked into the Olympics today. I got up, was doing the usual, what's on CBC, what do we got on NBC? Okay, TSN has it as well. And then I clicked the channel and realized that today is August 8th. And that is ESPN The Ocho Day. And TSN 5 is carrying all of the Ocho events. I got into the kickball championship, which was fascinating to see, adults competitively playing kickball. I'm not sure how much money is in kickball, but it was, I remember in elementary, did you play soccer, baseball, Remis?
Yeah, I think in Canada you call it soccer baseball. I only learned until I was older that they call it kickball in the U.S., but I loved playing soccer baseball in the gym, but I don't think we were as good at pitching as some of the guys that they were showing on TV. I don't know how any of those guys...
Pitching was impressive.
I don't know how anyone kicks the ball. They put so much spin on it. I don't think we were putting that kind of spin on it when I played.
What else do we have here coming up? Just in case you want to get, you're maybe done with the Olympics and you want to dive into some other sports. We've got Roofball World Championship coming up later on. The AWA Wiffle Ball All-Star Game. Listen, Remis, and this is unfortunate. This will be while we're doing the show, but at 2:30. I would put you in this. The Microsoft Excel World Championship Finals.
Yeah, I'm not. I've seen those guys before us. I'm not even close to. I could dream to be that good at Microsoft Excel, but I've seen videos that it's pretty incredible.
What about typing? You could be in the typing championship.
I would be in the 99th percentile, but I think there's like that extra one that is like as good as you think you are at anything. I've learned this. There's probably someone out there around the world who's just a little bit better than you, but I'm a big fan of a typing championship.
It's too bad this is competing with the Olympics because I personally would love to see. There's always like the same thing on like 2 of the 3 TSN channels.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we actually had this year round, I would be watching it all the time. Like the Wiffle Ball All-Star Game, the Roofball World Championship, Major League Paintball. The one that I would like to see the most, the National Putting Tour Final. Like I love miniature golf, and there's some incredible courses. This should be something that is regularly available to viewers. Oh, how about adult big wheel races?
Is that like when you're in a big wheel? I know that this ESPN 8, the Ocho thing, started as a joke from the movie Dodgeball, and the actual, channel ESPN is, okay, one day on August 8th, we're going to show all these out there sports. here it's only one day, but it's a whole weekend thing in ESPN, and maybe some of these can catch on. I see on ESPN Center they got the table hockey championships. I mean, something called card jitsu. I did Google this. The Tech Ball World Series, which is basically like ping pong, except you have to you're using a soccer ball. Sorry, it's like a ping pong table, but you're using your head and your feet on a soccer ball. Some real skill in that. So there are some out there sports tests that we don't know about. Maybe some of them catch on to be mainstream. This is the perfect time to debut that, but it is taking away from some Olympic viewing with some big races this afternoon.
Well, later on, once everything's done in Paris, the prime time events for the Ocho tonight, we've got the adult big wheel races. I think these are all, is this Eastern time? So 5 o'clock in Winnipeg will be the big wheel races. Then the National Beach Tennis Invitational. 6 o'clock, we've got the USA Dodgeball All-Star Showcase. 7 o'clock, the World Dog Surfing Championship. 7:30, Slippery Stairs. That's always wild. The people trying to climb up the stairs and then they get slimed or whatever and fall down. Kind of reminds me of my favorite old show, which we talk about occasionally on this, The Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. Shout out Kenny Blankenship and Guy Ledouche. The 2024 Corgi races is at 9:30 tonight. Major League Table Tennis Championship. Well, that's an Olympic sport. And then the Fling Golf All-Star Skills Competition. Let's do a why not question of the day right now, actually, on this topic. WSTers in chat. Is there a out there sport that you feel deserves recognition? I love the fact that they didn't put competitive eating in this because it's already part of the mainstream sports on ESPN every 4th of July. But is there something else that you would like to get in that we should have on television? A bizarre sport that we don't get. I'd like to see some disc golf. I think disc golf's awesome, and they do have pretty good coverage of it, if you're following it. I wasn't aware. They have freestyle trampoline, axe and knife throwing, jump rope world championships. They've got the Rubik's Cube. Anything that you would throw in there, Remo? Are we missing something on the Ocho?
What do they have, like competitive NBA Jam? Do you have any retro esports? Tech Mobile?
Esports, I don't believe we're going on.
Does that count?
One thing that I've seen, they actually do have it, or it was already on today. But you can see this on the Game Plus network sometime. Have you seen this tire wrestling?
No.
So it's two dudes across from each other, and in the middle are 3 massive truck tires. And the goal of the event is to stick your opponent in the tires. 50% of their body needs to be inside the tire to crown a winner. I saw it on the Game Plus network the other day. They've given all the athletes like ridiculous names. Like it's Punisher versus Starman or whatever. They're just regular dudes. And they just sort of wrestle each other until finally one guy's so weak he gets thrown in the tires. A bizarre one indeed. But let us know in the chat. Horseshoes, long darts, ladder ball would be excellent. Yeah, Jay Miller. Wow, we need a jet trade or something. Typing championships. What's the heck? Scotty Billeck. Yeah, he's doing marble races. Exactly. Like, what are we doing here? How that did not come up right away? Anyways, we've got the and WSD needs a cornhole tournament. That's actually not a bad idea. Think about getting everyone together. But back from the Ocho to the real world of the Olympic Games. We're going to be talking about this with Ben Steiner coming up. Beach volleyball, always a very popular sport for viewers, but now it's going to be even more popular for Canadians as the 7th-ranked team in the world is playing for gold. What a run by our Canadian women.
Yeah, I was watching that one on CBC. Big matchup against the Swiss there, and it's amazing that they're medaling in these events, Canada, that they haven't medaled in for so long. Beach volleyball. We saw hammer throw, pole vault, Canada really making an impact. So, beach volleyball always a favorite at the Olympics. And what a scene it is there, Huss, in Paris, in front of the Eiffel Tower. So picturesque. So, congrats to the Canadian women there making it to the final for beach volleyball.
Yeah, of course, our focus is going to be on Skylar Peters. Shout out to Skylar Peters, a good friend of the show. Skylar Park, not to be confused with the incredibly talented young newsman that interned with us at 1290 on CJOB. Not that Skylar, but Skylar Park. I'd read that the Park family, this is really a family affair. I mean, Skylar, as well as her two brothers, have all been training at an elite level. Their father's the coach. The basement sounds like the dojo, if you will. And this, I mean, she was incredibly disappointed, Reem, to lose in the quarterfinals. Was fortunate in that her opponent that beat her moved on to the finals. And because of that, she's going to have the opportunity to fight for bronze. And I would say hopes are high. She is the third-ranked athlete in the world in her event. So that's going to be a keen interest to us over the course of the next 25 minutes or so when we should know whether she's an Olympic medalist or not.
Yeah, 135 against Aoun from Lebanon for bronze medal. And yeah, so she lost her quarterfinal, had to fight in a repechage match, where I guess because her opponent that she lost to made it to the final, she got another opportunity and she won that. So very exciting. And yeah, the Park family, they have with their gym there on Scurfield. She was won at the Pan Am Games. So it would be very exciting to bring home a medal to Winnipeg for Skylar Park. So keep an eye on that right now.
You know it. Hey, getting away from the Olympics for a minute, we'll get back to it when Ben joins us in just a few. We did have a lot of good hoops news lately. I mean, disappointment for Canada at the Olympics, disappointment for the Sea Bears in the playoffs. But Simon Hildebrand of the Winnipeg Sea Bears wins the CEBL award for the Developmental Youth Sports Player of the Year. It's been a really cool story. The last two seasons of Simon playing with the Sea Bears. He was the Youth Sports Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, but this year under Mike Taylor became, a regular, starting often and making a big impact. And he's only 2 years into his journey with Kirby Shep and the U of M Bisons, but man, has made a mark already in the CEBL. And nice to see. Last year it was all the hardware coming the Sea Bears' way, despite the fact that they weren't able to advance to the championship weekend. This year, not so much. The team will refocus and come back for next year's championship weekend, which is going to be right here in Winnipeg. But a nice tip of the cap to Simon, who has been on the show a number of times and proved to be a very important part of that Sea Bears team.
Yeah, his second year in a row. Last year was called Youth Sports Player of the Year. This year they renamed it to Developmental Player of the Year. One of only two collegiate players has to appear in all 20 regular season games. His second year in a row receiving the award, averaged 5.3 points per game, 3.2 rebounds per game. And it's, championship weekend for the CBL, putting out some of the awards. And, but they didn't get to where they wanted to go, advancing, past that play-in game. Nice to see Simon get rewarded, and Justin Wright Foreman, who joined the team halfway through the season, was named an all-star as well. And the Sea Bears did officially announce that they smashed the single season attendance record. So while they were not able to host a home playoff game, 86,275 fans took in games at Canada Life Center. And
the fans of Winnipeg get the gold medal in the CBL this year.
Yeah, they've been a huge success here, and makes that next season very important with the championship weekend taking place here, as it is in Montreal this weekend. We talked to Mo Khan yesterday on the show, who broke that down. So I really like where the CEBL is going, Us. A lot of interest here. It's very, very new league, but it seems, they're expanding the number of teams in the future. More games are coming as well. We could probably go for another week or two ending on August 8th, but I think because a lot of players play on other teams, across the world and Europe, some of them do have to leave early. And we did see that here with David Wencat having to leave and not participate in that last playoff game.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So, but anyways, congratulations to Simon Hildebrand, who's getting the award. God, the chat has gone nuts. If you're listening to the you're listening to the podcast and enjoyed our conversation about the ESPN Ocho, WSDers have a lot of suggestions. We did miss actually one of the legitimate things on the Ocho was the waiter and waitress championships.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a bartending competition. I mean, that would catch my attention. I'll tell you that much. Also, wall ball, pogs. Donny Boy, is water skiing an Olympic sport? I think it used to be, but I don't think it is anymore. I could be wrong on that. Let's see. The Frozen Canadian Tire Orange Ball Hockey Championship Foursquare Extreme Ironing. Could be that. At Hyman, Diet Pepsi Chugging Hustler. Well, I'd be in on that, although I'm not a great chugger. Javelin catching, Connect Four. Well, there's toe wrestling. I'm not sure. When's MMA going to be in the? Do you think that'll ever happen? MMA in the Olympic sport?
It is a global sport.
Or is it just too violent?
Yeah, I don't think so. And
Even boxing, they wear the headgear.
I don't think like Dana White would have contracts in that let people go and fight in the Olympics.
Good point.
I can't see that happening. I don't think so. I think it's its own thing, but I mean, it is global. It would be kind of cool.
Maybe it's like soccer. It's just an under 18 thing. Just kids MMA. Or maybe that's for the Ocho.
I did wonder. I mean, they're talking about new sports. Kyle said he wanted to see American football in the Olympics. They are having flag football in 2028 in LA, and a lot of NFL guys are saying, hey, they want to go in. So I think that would be super cool. We'll have to see how that, I don't know what kind of competition there is globally for American football, but hey, if you can put an all-star team together of NFL guys, I'll tune in.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. I mean, It would be right around training camp. I would imagine the Olympics are probably in August, like they are here right now. Mahomes said, he goes, hey, if I'm around right then, I'd love to represent the United States and play for it. So maybe you can get a few more Super Bowl rings and then an Olympic gold medal. Hey, speaking of football, we got week 10 of the Canadian Football League going at it tonight, and we'll spend a little more time kind of diving into the lines later on in our Cool Bet segment, Remo, but the Riders are 3-point underdogs in Ottawa right now. I mean, I guess the shine off that great start of the Riders has come off a little bit after the loss to the Elks, and then the way they blew it in the second half against Davis Alexander and the Alouettes. But I don't know about you. I still think that the Riders are probably a tier above the Red Blacks, despite the Red Blacks' great win. The Red Blacks could prove a lot of people wrong with a win tonight to get to 6 wins.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, the Red Blacks have really beaten up on Edmonton and Hamilton, and you look at their record, I think it's kind of inflated. I've had them as a tier below, Winnipeg, Calgary, Toronto, and I'm going to continue to have the Bombers higher than their record, but Ottawa's at 5-2. Again, I think that record is inflated. They are 4-0-0 at home. One of those wins did come against the Bombers. I'm curious to see what's Drew Brown going to bring. Saskatchewan had this great defense, was not able to contain Trey Ford last week. Davis Alexander, the backup quarterback, went crazy against them the week before for the comeback win. So this is a big one. They are going with Paterson at quarterback. Trevor Harris still out. I think the big injury, and you and Jeff talked about this yesterday, Jameer Thurman, linebacker, out. How is that going to affect the run defense? Armstead, he's been okay. One guy who is back for Ottawa, Devontae Dedman. This guy is dynamic at the kick return. So, Pimpleton, I think he had a big return the other day. He's been pretty good for Ottawa. This Ottawa offense has been good. We'll see if Saskatchewan can slow them down. We're going to learn a lot, I think, after this game, and I am looking forward to seeing this Thursday night Week 10 opener.
Yeah, I'm fired up for this one too. And much like 2 weeks ago, I'm actually going to be backing the Riders at Cool Bet, and it's sort of an emotional hedge. You either win your bet, or if you lose, well, so do the Riders, and that's great news for the Bombers. We'll get to all that coming up with our pal Scott Billeck a little later on. But Ben Steiner's coming up. We're going to talk about Skylar Park, and we'll keep our eyes on this matchup coming up in just a minute. As I mentioned, CFL 110 is up, brought to you by Garage Living Winnipeg. Give our pal Pat Kanuga a buzz at 204-999-1234 for more information on how you can revolutionize that garage and fire it up with, maybe put in a car hoist to work on that car or sled or more. There's so much they can do. Check them out at garageliving.com. And again, for a free in-garage consultation, give Pat a call and get working on adding value to your home and changing fundamentally everything that your garage is right now that you'll want to turn it into. There's a few of the great picks of what they've got going on over at Garage Living. Our friends at Rolly's Transfer are real busy right now. It is moving season, and if you have a move coming up, get the white glove treatment from the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Rolly's Transfer, family owned and operated, helping Manitobans make their big next move. They've got they're extensive logistics business that takes them all around this city and southern Manitoba on a daily basis, which means flexible routes, flexible timing, and great rates. And if you go to their website, rollies.com, done a great job relaunching this. Top right corner is the request an estimate tab. Pop in, let them know where you're moving, when you're moving, and what you're moving. You can actually even upload photos of furniture and boxes to go. And of course, the friendly folks from Rollies will turn it around with a great quote for you and get you on the move. And hey, WSTers, we've got a special extra deal for you. There is a promo code when you're putting in the request an estimate. Put in WST there. They've got a special deal for you with additional savings on moving services and supplies for your next move. Use Rollies, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Find out more, request an estimate today at rollies.com. The gang of Consolidated Supply continues to have a rockin' summer, and we've had plenty of rain early on, a little bit today, hopefully not so much the rest of the way. But listen, as the leaders in irrigation systems and solutions, they've been helping Manitobans with both commercial and residential properties all year, not to mention the go-to guys for the golf industry. Speaking of that, they've got artificial turf. Golf Carts is the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba, both new and used, and other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchens. And of course, they're the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by Consolidated Supply. See them at their showroom, open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at their great relaunched website at cte.ca. And listen, just before we talk some Olympics, don't forget, for all your battery needs this beautiful Manitoba summer, getting ready for the weekend, you got to have everything powered. Are you camping, you're boating, you got on your ATVs? Manitoba Batteries got the batteries you need at the best prices in town. Shop local at Manitoba Battery, and you'll get the best prices. They beat the pants off the big box stores and have the best service in town. You can see them on Logan Avenue or on Dover Court at their new location, but they'll also deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere in the city of Winnipeg inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. So for all your battery needs, shop local, make it Manitoba Battery. Shop online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's get to the Olympics. Really looking forward to this segment. And as I said, we're going to be keeping our eye on Paris while we do it. Let's welcome in from CBC Sports, Ben Steiner to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Ben, what's up? Thanks so much for doing this.
What's up? It's a pleasure to be with you. It's an exciting time for Winnipeg sports fans right now. Skylar Park about to fight for a bronze medal at the Olympics. I'm surprised you're live here and not tuned in on the edge of your seat.
Well, you know what? That's we gotta kind of do two things at once. And I know Remis has got it up on the CBC Gem. And by the way, I mean, like the coverage and I think this is, I mean, not that you would speak to it or anyone. We're not into kind of breaking down how the sports broadcasting world works, but holy smokes! I mean, there's so much. The scope of the Olympic Games is so huge. You need to have a platform like this. And if people haven't checked it out right now, I mean, you can speak to it, Ben. I'm sure a lot of your work is done flipping from feed to feed to feed right now because it really is all there for Canadians.
Yeah, we do the best we can to get it up for Canadians. I know there's a few events that might not have gotten up that Canadians wanted to watch, but it's some of the best Olympic coverage in the world, and it's a pleasure to be a part of the team, bringing these stories to Canadians because, these are Canada's athletes. These are representing Canada on the global stage. Every athlete over there is a Canadian diplomat representing Canada to the world, and it's our job to tell those stories. There's so many good stories as well.
Well, listen, while we're at it, you mentioned Skylar Park, and I just saw the tweet, and I'm going to retweet this that you just put out, a great picture of the Park family, who, as you mentioned, Canada's premier taekwondo family. Skylar was hoping, to be in the semis, but she lost in the quarters, and yet has battled back and now has a chance for bronze in really the next few minutes. To just fill us in on the path that Skylar's taken to the verge of being an Olympic medalist.
Yeah, it's been an incredible path for Skylar Park and the entire Park family. Her father, Jay Park, is actually her coach as she walks out into the Grand Palais right now. I've got it on my screen just over here, as I imagine you do as well. And what a venue for fencing, for taekwondo, all of these sports. Paris has knocked it out of the park. But, Skylar's journey has been tremendous. She's come from, a family that has always competed in taekwondo all the way back to her grandfather, who still is part of her training. And she has two brothers. They were all at the Pan Am Games last year, where Skylar won gold in Chile. And it was that gold medal that actually clinched her spot at these Paris Olympics. And this morning, it went to plan for the first round, not so much in the second round. She loses in the quarterfinal. And then it was about cheering on the South Korean that she lost to, because if the South Korean made the final, which she did, then Park would be able to fight for bronze through a repechage bracket. It is confusing. A lot of the combat sports at the Olympics are very confusing. But here's Skylar Park. She's made her way. The Korean has made her way into the final as well. And now Skylar Park is one fight away from a bronze medal at the Olympics. And that would be Canada's 21st medal, and, a massive achievement for really Canada's first family of taekwondo.
Ben, this is, exciting. And, to have a medal at that point, I've just got the app on too, so we can sort of pay it attention. It's huge for the athlete, but to get onto a podium for some of these more niche fringe sports, things that aren't talked about, it can have a massive, massive effect on the future of the sport to have that sort of an achievement, and what it does to inspire future athletes that maybe didn't even know that those opportunities existed.
Yeah, there's not just inspiring future athletes, but there's also, the question of national funding towards these sports. The way that a lot of national funding works in Canada, especially through the program On the Podium, is if there's a potential Olympic medalist, those sports get more funding. And so Skylar Park has received funding from On the Podium, as well as, other aspects of Canadian athletics and just every funding partner in how sport works in this country. And she's made her way into this, Olympic medal final. And this could only help, growing taekwondo in Canada, because there's not only that inspirational factor, but also the factor that, there's medal potential here, and it's something that could attract future funding.
All right. Well, Skylar is out on the mat right now, wearing the red, going up against the Lebanese athlete in blue. We'll keep you up to date on that, and pay attention, and hopefully have a pretty happy chat room coming up in a few minutes when this is done. Ben, staying with the Olympics, though, on our Canadian Olympic team, beach volleyball, for many reasons, is a very popular sport to view. The venue in Paris is absolutely phenomenal, right there in the shadows of the Eiffel Tower. And Canada had some hopes to be in the mix. I'm not sure many thought that our women's team could be playing for a gold medal. Tell us about this run that Canada's on in beach volleyball, and one game away from potentially winning a gold medal.
Well, it all starts in the gyms of York University when Melissa Jimenez-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson played together. And that's where they met. That's where they started to develop a partnership. It was indoor volleyball. And then both of them ended up with different partners in the beach game, and only came together a couple of years ago and have formed that partnership. We saw, Heather Bansley and Sophie Bukovic. They were also premier Canadian beach volleyball players, and they were in this tournament, and they didn't quite live up to those standards. But really, Canada's two best players are playing together now, and they have been consistently quarterfinalists, semifinalists throughout the World Cup tournaments, called the Elite 16, that go on throughout the year. But this is kind of the first time that they've made this run as a pairing, and they're playing the same competition they do basically every weekend around the world. But what a time to make a run under the pressure, the level, under the shadows of the Eiffel Tower at Eiffel Tower Stadium too.
To move, to move from the 7th ranked team into the gold medal final, I mean, there's a win or two probably against higher ranked opponents. Was there one big upset that all of a sudden cleared the path for them to do what they hadn't done before?
Well, when they beat Taryn Nuss and Kristen Cloth in the quarterfinal, two American pairings, they are, the outstanding pair of this world. That was the big upset for this Canadian duo. They'll be taking on likely the Brazilian duo of Ana Duda and Ana Patricia in the final, and they're the number one in the world, and that's going to be difficult. But they've made the gold medal game, and it's somewhere that they haven't been before as a pairing. And they're probably riding a wave of confidence. Their game against Switzerland today, they were the higher seed, but they're 7th. Switzerland was 9th. It wasn't exactly an easy game. But playing the number one in the world for a chance at the gold medal, you got to be the best to be the best, and that's exactly what they'll have to do.
I never thought that I'd be giving out live taekwondo updates during one of show, but here we are right now, 0-0 in the first, feeling each other out right now. Lots of kicks, lots of high kicks right now going on in the taekwondo, and we're pulling for Schuyler Park right now, deadlocked in the first. We'll stay on top of that. Yesterday was a fun day. Even earlier today, Maud Sharon, silver in women's weightlifting. This is another perfect example of an Olympic sport that we don't see very much in the 4 years in between, but it comes onto the stage. And, this was a woman that, had high expectations coming in. Tell us about just the weightlifting overall for Canada and the importance of this silver medal.
Yeah, well, Maud Sharon's journey to these games and this silver medal is incredible. There was a headline earlier today that, her Olympic medal defense hadn't, lived up because she won gold in Tokyo. That's uneducated. That's, it doesn't quite live up to the journey that she's been on, because she competed in the 64 kilogram weight class when she won that gold medal. That weight class was eliminated. She has gone against her body, adapted her body to drop down a weight class, maintain her strength. She brought her own food to competitions to make sure that she's staying on the plan, staying within the weight class, because, that's just not where her body naturally is. She's an exceptional athlete, but her weight class was, for stronger, bigger athletes. And she's dropped down and she's adjusted, she's rebuilt her strength, and she was able to win an Olympic silver medal, which is absolutely exceptional, as well as being the flag bearer of these games. It's honestly one of the best stories of these Olympics for Team Canada, and to see an athlete like Maud Sharon be given the challenge of having her event eliminated from the Olympic Games and then adapting in those 3 years to come back and still be on that podium.
Well, why would they eliminate one of the weight classes? Were they just trying to, make it a smaller event? It seems sort of strange. I mean, sometimes sports get removed from the Olympic Games, but I saw that story. I found it weird that all of a sudden she was going to come back but have to compete at a different weight.
Yeah, they tend to make a lot of adjustments. The IOC can kind of make their own rules, whatever day of the week it is. But when it comes to these Olympics, there was a big focus on making gender parity. And so there were a few adjustments both on the men's and women's side to have the exact same amount of male athletes and female athletes at these games. And so that is kind of, how those things go about. We always see, weight classes shift. And different sports come in and out in every single game. We'll see a big shift in LA in 4 years' time, because we'll see the departure of breaking, the addition of football, squash, cricket. It's going to be a very different looking Olympic program in LA. But then, we saw adjustment in race walk this year, where they eliminated the men's 50K race walk. And that kind of hurt the chances of Evan Dunphy in an Olympic medal, because that was his event. And they re-added a mixed relay to have that gender balance. So, it's good that the athlete numbers are gender balanced. The amount of medals and the amount of competitions aren't exactly gender balanced. So there's still a ways to go in terms of that at the Olympic Games. But this was, another part of that kind of constant adjustment of the Olympic program.
Ben, they're just getting back onto the mat now for the second, and I'll forgive my naivety. Is there 3 periods in Taekwondo?
It is best of 3. So there are 3 bouts I'm not exactly sure what happens in a tie. I haven't, researched to that level in terms of the rules of Taekwondo, but it is 3 bouts, and Skylar Park took the first one, 3-0.
Oh, she got it. Okay, because it says 0-0, but then they've got the thing on it. So anyways, again, don't look here, folks, for the technical analysis of this. We're just looking to see if our girl Skylar Park's getting a medal right now, and it looks good so far. They're now into, and by the way, it's now live on CBC. Ben Steiner is with us. Ben, we talked about the weightlifting medal. Canada, we are a strength country and a hammer nation. Where did this come from? Gold medal on both the women's and the men's side in the hammer throw, a sport that I would gather 99.999% of Canadians have never seen and probably never touched one of the apparatuses that's involved in the sport.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising to see, and they were basically medal locks as well, if not gold medal locks. I had several people ask me back in January what were some of the athletes to watch at these Olympics, and I said, it's going to be Ethan Kasberg. He's going to be the story of these games, and he's as much a lock for a gold medal as you'll ever see. And of course, he goes out, he wins it on the first throw. And a number of those people texted me the other day saying, how the hell do you know that much about hammer throw? When this is the stories you tell over the 4 years, this is the amount of knowledge that I guess gets crammed into my brain. But when you look at Canadian hammer throw, Canadian athletics in general, it kind of random in a way. Dylan Armstrong, who medaled in shot put at the Beijing 2008 Olympics, was out looking for somebody he could turn into a hammer thrower. He's from Kamloops. He looked on Vancouver Island. He looked across BC and he saw this kid, Ethan Kasberg, that he thought he could turn into a hammer thrower. And Ethan Kasberg was actually playing basketball. And they brought Ethan Kasberg in, kind of taught him how to throw a hammer. And he's turned into the best in the world, and he's not far off being the best ever to do it as well. And then Cameron Rogers, not quite a similar story. She had been throwing hammers for a little while longer, but both from BC. They didn't go up through the same programs or anything. They're fairly disconnected, but you can actually look back a number of years, and hammer throw was actually an investment in terms of BC athletics. They wanted to improve in that, so there was a little bit more focus on pushing that within school track and field programs. So maybe that is how this all kind of worked out. But it's 2 exceptional athletes, and at the end of the day, that's pretty lucky to find, especially in one province.
It's all over, folks, and Skylar Park of Winnipeg is a Canadian Olympic bronze medalist, winning in 2 straight. $1 million smile right now, hugging her dad Jay, who's also her coach. She didn't take the easy way to get there, Ben, but a huge moment for the sport in our country. And obviously everyone here in Winnipeg incredibly proud of Skylar, who has been someone that is talked about in the local sports scene for a lot. As again, we mentioned, these sports are not on TV all the time, but what a great story she is, her family is, as you mentioned off the top, and now coming back with some hardware from Paris.
Yeah, another medal for Canada. I mean, she's hugging her dad right now, who's also her coach. So, an exceptional story there for Winnipeg, for Canada, for Taekwondo. It's Canada's first medal in Taekwondo since Beijing 2008. And, it's an absolutely exceptional result for Skylar Park. The Team Canada motto at these games is brave is unbeatable. The volleyball team came through a lucky loser game. Skylar Park came through a repechage game. It's absolutely exceptional. She's running around with the Canadian flag. It's a proud moment for Canada right now.
So what's on your radar for the rest of the day? I mean, with the time changes, it's sometimes hard to know when everything is going on. But, we are knee-deep into the meat of the athletic schedule. I know there's some big events and obviously some still hopes for more Canadian medal winning.
Well, the event to watch this afternoon is going to be the 200 meters. There's no Canadians for the first time in 12 years, which is kind of stunning to say, that there's no Canadians in the 200-meter final, whether that was Aaron Brown or Andre DeGrasse. A little bit of disappointment on that front, even though they did qualify for the men's 4x100 this morning and looked pretty good doing it as well. But when you look at what's to watch in the rest of today, Savannah Sutherland of Borden, Saskatchewan, is racing in the women's 400-meter hurdles final, and she's certainly one to watch. The top two are kind of locked up in terms of results. Probably the U.S.'s Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone and the Netherlands' Femke Bol, but that bronze medal is potentially open for Sutherland to run into. She's been exceptional with the University of Michigan this year.
As we get into this final weekend, a big topic is going to be who's carrying the flag for Canada at the closing ceremonies. Summer McIntosh, I think, would have been a slam dunk no-brainer. I saw her do a press conference in Toronto yesterday, so I don't think she's there. And I doubt someone would come back to do that. Where are you at? Like, who do you think is the most likely, or who, put it this way, who's being considered right now for that incredible honor if Summer's not in the mix?
I think she's very much in the mix. You look at 2016, Penny Alexiak did it when she broke onto the scene. She came back to Toronto, went to her cottage, and then went back down to Rio.
Oh, really?
To carry the flag into the Olympic Stadium there. So there is precedent there of a young Canadian swimmer who won a lot of medals at a games doing that. So Summer McIntosh was asked the question when she did a press conference at Toronto Pearson yesterday and said that she would come back if asked for that honor. So that's still very much on the table. That would, of course, would need probably about a day in advance to make the flight back over. It's not so long a flight. It's about 6 hours from Toronto to Paris, so it's very doable. Other than that, I wouldn't be surprised to see the hammer throwers, honestly. You see, both of them, we're talking, two flag bearers these days, one man, one woman. So, Ethan Kasberg and Cameron Rogers could very well do it. You don't necessarily, Canada's just the third country to win both men's and women's gold in that event. So that would be a pretty cool one. And I think you can count on, at some point in Summer McIntosh's career, there's going to be one or two times that she's carrying the flag into an Olympic stadium, whether that's the opening ceremony at LA, after the games in LA, when she's no doubt going to clean up in terms of medals there. Even Brisbane, she's still going to be on the map in Brisbane in 2032. And then you can even potentially look at the 2036 Olympics too. She's that young.
Well, I mean, with 3 gold medals and a silver medal, and I mean, heck, depending on, I think that her incredible success is going to only help the profile of swimming in Canada and get more talented young athletes in it. Listen, Summer is Summer. She's in a stratosphere all of her own in international swimming, never mind national swimming. But you get a couple more fast swimmers in there on those relay teams, and you might be going from the 4 medals that we've talked about to 5 or 6 or 7. And bottom line is the potential for this young woman is literally limitless right now of what she might be able to do. And listen, if I could go into Coolbet right now and throw it on a thing, at the end, when it's all said and done, Summer McIntosh will be the most decorated Olympian of all time in Canadian history. That's about as much as a lock as it seems, considering the timeline and what she's accomplished before she's even an adult.
The mark isn't exceptionally far off either. She could probably win it midway through the LA games because, it's Penny Alexiak 7, and Alexiak could have added an 8th medal if McIntosh had been able to finish the 4x100 medley relay at the level that she would have wanted to. And Alexiak would have gotten a medal from swimming the preliminary there. And, the record would have been that much farther off for McIntosh. Of course, he would have gotten a medal there as well and already had 5 if that had happened. But, she's going to be dominant. I think she's the only Canadian athlete that's ever been in the Michael Phelps conversation in terms of that level of excellence within a sport. And I wouldn't be surprised if, in 10 years, we're talking about Summer McIntosh as not only the best Canadian Olympian ever, but the best Canadian athlete ever, period, rivaling the likes of Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, man, really enjoying this conversation, talking about the Olympics with Ben Steiner of CBC Sports. Make sure you're giving Ben a follow at Ben Steiner 00 on X with, the latest on everything going on from a Canadian perspective. Ben, we focus on the winners, who's winning the gold medal, Summer McIntosh, Skylar Park getting a bronze. I know you've paid very close attention to this from the get-go. Is there a Canadian Olympic story or two that really resonates with you that doesn't involve getting on the podium?
I think the definition of that would be Kaylee McKay in terms of the 10-meter diving. She's finished 4th at the Olympics, not once, not twice, but 3 times. She said in a tearful interview after her last one that she's pretty good at finishing fourth. That's kind of her specialty. I spent some time with her on the phone yesterday, and she's learned to find the silver lining in not a silver medal, but the silver lining in finishing fourth. And there's been a lot of soul searching for her after finishing fourth as a 21-year-old at her first Olympics, and now she's 24, and she's been able to kind of realize that she can put in an exceptional performance, and that's all that she really has control over. There's no control over what her opponents are doing. So she's found to focus on that, and I think that's kind of the story of winning and losing with respect, with that Canadian edge, the Canadian vigor, but also the Canadian sort of approach in terms of focusing on yourself and not necessarily worrying about what others are doing.
Ben, just before we go, as we head into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I mean, obviously we're going to have some incredible matchups in the finals of the team events, basketball and volleyball. But whether it's just from a general Olympic fan or from a Canadian perspective, what, in your opinion, are sort of the events that people listening and watching right now should kind of make note of and try and catch?
Well, if you're still into throwing things, there's more good Canadian throwing with Sarah Minton in the shot put. And she actually won the qualifier earlier today, and the U.S.'s Chase Jackson didn't put down a score, and that was really her main competitor and is now out of the competition. So now Sarah Minton is, a gold medal favorite in this competition. There's breaking as well. It's the most fever dream sport of the Olympics. It'll be literally in the Olympics for one day. They'll get the competition done, and then it's off the program for LA 2028. But Canada, gold medal potential there on the men's side with Philip Kim, or as he goes by, B-boy Phil Wizard. And if you want to sound smart when you're watching it with your friends, they're B-boys and B-girls. They're not breakers or breaking athletes. They are B-boys and B-girls.
So wait a second. It's not in the LA Olympics? How does something get in and get taken out before it's even competitive?
One day.
It's just a one and done?
It's a one and done sport. It's going to be a great sport. I think people are going to love it. I had the opportunity to cover it in person, and it's just an electric atmosphere to be in. I've never experienced an Olympic sport like that. It was just so fun. And it's not going to be in LA because they're bringing in flag football for however you want to count that, probably a medal for Canada, but it's going to be, interesting to see flag football on the Olympic stage.
Absolutely. I heard my guy Mahomes is already saying he wants to QB the Olympic team. I mean, if they had NFL stars, and heck, from CFL stars, I mean, it will be. I mean, that'll be one of those sports that everyone will be watching. And, with the growth of flag football and just how, dangerous and violent professional football can be, the growth of that to a sport is an option for people to maybe take less physicality. Probably a pretty good thing. Ben, listen, I really appreciate the time. We got to hang out, talk about all the Olympics, see Skylar Park win a bronze medal in the middle of the interview. Great stuff. I know you'll want to get out there and probably be firing out some tweets and do some work on Skylar and more of the Olympians, so we'll get you you go. But keep up the great work, and thank you so much for the time to join us today in the Peg.
Of course. I got to get to the office now, actually. I've been working from the CBC HQ from 4 to midnight, so it's certainly been a journey of Olympic Games, and I'm looking forward to some sleep in the near future and maybe a drink after the Olympic Games as well.
Good stuff. It'll be well-deserved. Thanks again, Ben. At Ben Steiner 00 on X, doing some great work covering the Canadian Olympians. And once again, congratulations to Skylar Park. I was kind of hoping that would be live outside of our show, but it actually ended up making for a pretty fun interview while watching on the GEM app. Skylar win her match and win a gold medal. We'll look to have Skylar on at some point when she returns from the Olympic Games. All right, Billeck's coming up in just a minute. We will talk some Bombers with Scott. Of course, all our Bomber reports brought to you by Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers, and of course, the home of the Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium. Princess Auto, proudly headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg. Now coast to coast, but with 2 locations in Winnipeg to serve you with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. You can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Ben mentioned at the end of the Olympic Games, he'll be looking forward to going and having a drink. should maybe send him a little Canadian Club for all of his hard work following the Canadian Olympians. When it is time for a drink, there's nothing like the best that Canada has to offer since 1848. The original Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, is also, of course, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You can pick it up at Princess Auto Stadium, along with CC and Ginger premix cocktail, ice cold and ready to go in cans. And listen, on your next trip to your Manitoba Liquor Marts, just in time for the weekend, make sure to check out the Canadian Club display for all the family of Canadian Club products. And if you're grabbing beers at the vendor, keep an eye out for CC and Ginger available in cans as well. You will not regret it. Big thanks to Canadian Club for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You know what's better than building a fence on your weekend? Literally anything. It's a lot of work. And who knows what the finished product's going to be. Listen, if you're thinking about needing a fence, go to the experts at Wallace & Wallace. They've been doing it since 1946 here in Winnipeg as the leaders in everything fencing. You've seen if you have any need for temporary fencing, almost guaranteed it's Wallace & Wallace. But if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter banged up your old one, they have you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call at 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenaston. And I know it feels a little fally today, and I assure you we're going to get some great weather on the weekend through next week. But it is a reality that we're now into August and fall is just around the corner. And with the change of seasons, you might be looking into your closet realizing, whoa, I need to up my menswear game. If that's the case, get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Great deal right now, 25% off any purchase of 3 shirts. And of course, they've got a 15% discount for wedding parties. If you are in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F about that. You can find out more information online or book an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. And of course, you can see them at F Apparel HQ, downtown Winnipeg at 190 Smith Street. All right. Skylar Park is an Olympic bronze medalist. We've got some Bombers to talk about. We've got the then a little mailbag action with Scott Billeck. And Scott joins us now from Scott Billeck HQ. What's going on? How are you?
Sec there. Hold on, I gotta bring.
Oh, okay. We just got to bring Scott in on it. We do have, and if you haven't seen this already, get over to the Winnipeg Sun. No question about it that the name Patrik Laine was going to emerge in the mailbag when fans were coming in. We'll hit all of that coming up. Scotty, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Going, man. I am in HQ, which is my second bedroom at my condo. So
were you just tuned in to Skylar Park's win
I saw that.
of the bronze medal? How cool is that for Skylar and the first family of taekwondo in Canada right here in the Peg?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of the last medalist from Winnipeg. You probably know better than I do.
In the summer games?
Yeah, in the summer games. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Well, it's Des.
Sorry.
Individual events.
In an individual medal,
Clara Hughes won in the cycling.
Is that it though? Is she the last one?
I'm trying.
Somebody in the chat's got to know more about the Olympics than
there's a little trivia question for everybody.
Anyways, very cool, obviously. To have that. Good to have. Yeah, it's cool. And he's what, 16? I think he's not old.
No, Skylar. She's
she.
Yeah,
she's 16, right? Though. Yeah, I think so.
No. I think she's older. I think she's older than that. She is. She's like in her 20s. It's like there's 2 brothers, And I think the youngest brother is 18 or 19 or so.
Okay.
Because she's been Remis says she's 25.
Sorry, I read the tweet wrong. First Olympic medal in Taekwondo in 16 years. My bad.
Yes, for Canada.
Read the tweet, understand the tweet. That's the problem. I didn't read the tweet. So.
But anyways,
cool
being
way.
Winnipeg Sports Talk, it happened while we were on the air. Everyone's all fired up, and another medal for Canada. Man, it's been fun to watch. I mean, obviously, there's been some disappointments, like Andre DeGrasse, like the Canadian men's basketball team. Yeah. But for every one of those disappointments, you've got performances like this. Of course, the hammer throwers winning the gold medal.
Yes.
And like the women's beach volleyball playing for gold. I don't think anybody saw that coming. They got into the playoffs through the lucky loser and are now one win away from a gold medal, coming in as the 7th ranked team in the world.
Just take advantage of your opportunities, right? That's what the Olympic is, right? I mean, it's about stepping up and standing out. Right? At the end of the day, that's what happens. And sometimes you get tossed a lifeline. And use it, right? I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I've enjoyed some of it. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I've watched a ton of it. I mean, just the time difference and whatever, and that sort of thing. I just haven't watched much of it live, and it's something that you like to watch. But I've seen a ton of highlights. And there's been a lot of really good. I mean, the thing that I enjoyed the most was the whole Simone Biles thing and her going back and forth. I think the other lady was Brazilian. Man, like those, they had to be very good. And so that stuff's interesting. I mean, I've always enjoyed the running. The soccer was good. The golf. Scotty Scheffler out of nowhere.
That was crazy, man.
What
a
nowhere.
choke by John Rahm. Like, I don't mean to.
Yes. No, it was. I mean, call spade a spade. It was a choke job, right? I mean,
he didn't even medal. He had a 4-shot lead on the 11th hole.
That's like John Vandeveld, like bad. So, I mean,
tough pill to swallow for a Rahm who is such a proud Spaniard, and this, in a lot of ways, sort of the sign of just his entire year.
It's a tough year, right? I mean,
everyone outside of his accountant has had a tough one. He got the money, but he just hasn't been himself in these big events. And then I think could have changed it all. Winning the gold medal, hey, he's still the man. And then no, it was Scotty Scheffler with 29 on the back nine.
Yeah,
an event that felt like a 5th major, and I think always will be going forward with how much these guys want to win it. And ironically, in golf, like the money has torn the sport apart and really, really deflated the momentum of the game in North America. I think everywhere for the most part. And yet, what are the 2 events that people seem to dive into the most? The Ryder Cup and the Olympics, the 2 events where the athletes don't get paid. So something to be said for all of that. Hey, listen, I want to get to your Jets mailbag in a second. Yeah. But with the Bombers on the bye, and you've been covering the Bombers quite a bit. How did your opinion change of the Bombers and what their potential is in the second half of the season, based on one of the most stunning team performances we've seen in a long, long time in the CFL, a shutout of the BC Lions, and the way they did it, Scott, 4 first downs, 42 minutes time of possession. I mean, numbers that just simply are mind-boggling in the Canadian Football League.
I mean, I sat there in the press box on Thursday night, wondering when the other shoe was going to fall, right? Like, okay, so like it was a great start, but the start was sort of indicative of, or like the start was very much the same as a lot of them have been, where just very defensive for both teams. No real, like there was a few 3 and out or 2 and out, 3 and out, on the opening few drives, but then the Bombers just start, like the defense just kept it coming, right? Like that was one of the most dominant performances and out of the blue performances at the same time that I remember seeing especially from this Bomber team, because I think everybody expected them to come into the game. Like everybody was worried, not obviously not the team, but I think fans were worried. I mean, we were talking about it last week. I mean, it was going to take a gargantuan performance to beat the BC Lions. Who knew that the Bombers defense was going to come out and play that good, though? Like, I mean, it was just the numbers were insane. Like you talked about the 4 first downs, barely over 100 yards of net offense. I mean, they were actually like the coverage was so good that they were in position to pick off balls. The sack, I mean, the pressure that was coming. I don't know what happened to BC, and they did most of this damage with Vernon Adams Jr. behind center, right? Like, I mean, the game was never coming back after Adams got injured there.
It was over by then, anyways.
But exactly, it was over by then, and the offense. I guess the one critique of the game is they only scored one touchdown again. But I mean, this is how this team is winning right now, or needs to win right now, is that they have to rely on their defense to play as good as they did. And don't get me wrong, like I think they can do, like, this defense has gotten better since game one. And you expect that, but they've really sort of gelled in a way that they, like you could see it starting to come together. I thought in maybe game 3 or 4 this season, and it's just progressively gotten better. They haven't just, like, there's been some games where they just didn't get the run support, right? And so when you don't get that, it's very difficult to win football games. But they've gotten there to a point now where they can really rely on that defense. They have great corners. They have good halfbacks. They have a great defensive line that seems to really be gelling now. Linebacker work is done well. It's a really good effort by that team, by that defense on Thursday. And then what do you say about Sergio Castillo? I believe he was 6 for 6, 1 from 60. Making CFL history in the process. He was dialed in all game, and it was funny because I believe it was his first attempt went off the if you're looking at it, went off the left upright and in. And so you're like, oh, okay. It was still maybe a little shaky from the previous week where he missed 2 of them. But yeah, he was unbelievable. The team was really good, and the offense didn't make any mistakes, right? Yeah, obviously they had the turnover on downs again with Strevler. But I understand why you try and go back to that. I just don't know if that team. This is sort of a sidebar. I don't know if they still have the same push right now with some. And they didn't have Colin Kowski there because he got injured prior to making that play. So I just don't know if they have the same push on that offensive line that they used to when trying those plays. So I don't know if it's just completely automatic anymore. But besides that, Zach Claros played a really good game. They made some big plays. That's the other thing. Like, the offense made some big plays, some big catches, no fumbles. So yeah, I think they go into the break and they've gone into this week feeling good about themselves. BC might not have Adams. I don't think they can do it with their backup. Calgary won, which is, so they got to keep pace with Calgary to try and get third. But at the same time, I think if this team goes and continues to keep the mindset, and a lot of the players talked about it after the game, like, don't take, like, Willie Jefferson if people haven't watched it, go watch Willie Jefferson after the game. He had, Willie's an awesome guy to talk to, but he was like, no, like, whatever you do, make sure you're staying prepared, staying ready, because they want to build upon that momentum. And it's possible. I mean, they needed the bye week. They certainly needed it. But that was the best way that they could have gone into the bye week. And it was a dominant shutout win, which you don't really ever see in the CFL.
Well, and the wild thing is they're right back at it with BC, and VA will not play this weekend. And I mean, the good thing was that this wasn't a really serious knee injury that was going to take him out for the season. I think those were the fears, that it wasn't just a disaster for one game for BC. It could have been a season-ending disaster if VA wasn't going to be around. And you know what? Jake Dolagallo is starting tonight. I was talking about with Iwanek in the lock shop today. I mean, he had a couple 400-yard games last year. I mean, he wasn't he was competent. I guess there was a lot of issues with the Riders last year, and it was more than just the quarterback play. That is going to be a really interesting game this week. I mean, the Elks are actually favored in this game, and I don't think a lot of people would have had that on their bingo
crazy
card.
How quarterbacks just change everything, right?
Well,
they just change everything in this league. In all football, right? In all of football, you lose a quarterback, and you're like, well, but the next guy better be the next Tom Brady. Otherwise, like, your team's just sort of over with, right? So, yeah, it's interesting.
Trey Ford certainly has given people a shot of energy and adrenaline.
Finally, they give him a chance
to
right?
Team that was nuts. I mean, it's been 3 years. I mean, he's played in and out. I mean, listen, he has made mistakes. And I think there's definitely a maturity thing. There was an issue that, resonated with the coaching staff. Jarius Jackson, he was the OC the whole time. I mean, it wasn't like he was there pounding his fist on the desk. I mean, He started MBT when he got the job. But hey, it's about winning football games right now, and it should be very, very interesting. But let's get over to the Jets mailbag. Let me ask you this, just of everything that came in, because I do see the first question, I believe, is from our pal SK in the chat. Stuart Kaspersky, what percentage of the inbox, Scott, was Patrik Laine related?
I had a lot of emails about Patrik Laine. And so I just decided to use the first guy who asked me about Patrik Laine, essentially, right? Because I think
it was
a lot
plenty
of
the same question, I bet.
Oh yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot of the same question about Laine, and I get it, right? I mean, I know I came on here last week and said that doesn't make sense. I'm actually writing today about, the pros and cons of kind of, what it would mean for if the Jets were to get Patrik Laine back and the good and the bad. And the more that I read about it and write about it and that sort of thing, I think it can make sense. And getting a little more information this week about what Columbus is looking for in return. They're not. I mean, I think it was Aaron Portzline who wrote in The Athletic a couple days ago, yesterday maybe, that they're not necessarily looking for a top 6 player. They don't seem to expect that because of Laine's contract is so big. Maybe there's a chance in the Jets could dump off one of the contracts that they can't necessarily get rid of via other means. Alex Iafallo, perhaps, right? So here's the thing, right? If you're looking for retention, and Don Waddell has said that, he said last week, he said, if I was willing to keep half, I would have already had a trade made already. Now, he could just be saying that or whatever, but if we take him at his word, he's not really willing to take half. But as the summer goes along and they're trying to get, Patrik out of there, it's going to be more and more something that he might have to look at. Or you're a team like the Jets who potentially have a guy that you could offload for $6 million of your own, or maybe a $4 million guy and like Alex Iafallo. Yeah, I wonder how much retention you do need then. You don't need as much. Maybe you can get even more retention. Like, let's say you get, you trade Iafallo back, so you're already basically taking care of the half the retention that you would need. Maybe you can get, a quarter of that. I wonder if Rutger McGroarty then gets involved in this for that retention. If you were to, it's just one scenario, right? Where, if you want Patrik Laine at a really cheap rate for the next couple years, maybe Rutger McGroarty gets involved in the trade. I wonder if Columbus would like him. Obviously, he's got former teammates at Michigan that are now with Columbus. We've heard that McGroarty, or teams are sort of shying away from McGroarty. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know what's at play there. I don't even know if anything's at play. Nobody's talking, right? It's not like we've heard some of the teams. I mean, I was reading all these different things. It's all the teams that, like, Vegas wants Patrik. Vegas wants everybody. I mean, that doesn't mean they're going to get him. Even with the Minnesota Wild, I mean, Russo and somebody else, Joe Smith, I think, wrote about Minnesota Wild should take a shot at him. Well, Minnesota Wild have what, $700,000? I think the line in the story was Minnesota Wild can't even afford to bring up 2 guys or sign 2 guys on league minimum contracts right now. So there's a lot of movement, I think, that most teams that want Patrik Laine, or where Patrik Laine would be willing to go, because he's got a 10-team no-trade clause. And teams, they'd have to be able to afford him for one. They'd have to give something back to Columbus, probably, that they want, of course. And I think a lot of teams are going to have to dump some salary if they want him too. So it's complicated, but I think there's probably a way for the Jets to get it done that doesn't hinder them. Then I wonder, because somebody asked, well, where does he fit? Or I wonder where he fits, right? Because, what are they going to do? Are they going to play Cole Perfetti at center? Because then, yeah, sure, he does fit. And what does Patrik Laine need, right? I think we know what Patrik Laine needs in the NHL to be successful, and that's a center who can dish him the puck, right? He didn't really have that in Columbus. And that's part of the issue of why. I mean, obviously, he's had his injuries. I think it's 4 straight years now that he's had injuries. He was obviously in the player assistance program on top of that, but he wouldn't have played anyways for the rest of the year because of his shoulder injury. or shoulder surgery. Sorry. So, yeah, it's really interesting. The more I've dug into it, the more I've found, like, I think there's off ice. I think we talked about this a little bit last year. We know this team has struggled to sell season tickets. We all remember Laine Mania 1.0. Imagine Laine Mania 2.0 is definitely something that there you go, is definitely something that could something that would be, I think we spoke about last year. I think he'd be welcomed back with open arms. I think the fans would love him back. He's a fan favorite, highest draft pick ever in this 2.0 era. And yeah, like, I think there is something about the storyline of the sort of the prodigal son. What I wrote is I was looking at some guys who have returned to their former teams. Allen Iverson did it once. Charles Woodson with the Oakland Raiders at one point. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have done it that were well received. Randy Moss with the Minnesota Vikings, even though he only played, I think, 3 or 4 games.
Well, the crazy thing about this is, like, we're not talking about a guy coming in for a final lap at 35 or 36 26 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And this is why I'm so bullish on this, is that I think you would be buying low on a guy that's ceiling is incredibly high. This is a place that he played his best hockey, had his best results. He was incredibly comfortable here. Yeah. I have heard that he is very bullish on, potentially coming back. I mean, this would be a place that he would really like to go. I think it would fit very well. And with everything that he's been through off the ice, to come back to a familiar place, a familiar organization, with a couple key people that probably were very integral in his exit, no longer being here, the opportunity to come back with a clean slate to a familiar place with 2 years to really reestablish yourself as a star in the NHL and get your career going again.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And from the organization standpoint, that has a difficult time attracting players, is never going to be a big player when it comes to free agency. This is the sort of opportunity to me that doesn't come around very often, that a lot of the pieces are there for it. And listen, again, we're talking about it. Like, I would be, if I'm Cheveldayoff, I'd be loath to give up McGroarty as part of this, because, if you're trading McGroarty, the assets coming back, if I was doing the deal, have to be similar in the fact that it is a young player, either just drafted, young in the National Hockey League, with a long window of when they can contribute to your team. Yep. But as far as Laine goes, I would find a way to try to make it happen, because I think just from a hockey standpoint, there is such a potential for a huge win. And then, to your point, what that might be able to do to the market, to the fan base. He's a very special player with a special connection to this team and a large percentage of Winnipeg Jet fans. That's just a fact.
And let's be honest with ourselves. It's not like the Winnipeg Jets have had this, like, eye-catching summer, right? It's been a bit of a dull year, off season for them so far. I know they've tried to kind of couch it a little bit with, like, their youth renaissance that's going to happen this fall and all that. But again, none of those players are guaranteed, right? Nothing's guaranteed in this sport. None of those players are guaranteed. And at the end of the day, we're looking at a team right now on paper that is worse than it was last year. I don't think it's really arguable. Could it be better? We'll see. But I think the idea that you bring in, you don't win championships by making smart business decisions all the time. But this one does 2 things for this team, and I think it satisfies. And I'm not making the argument, because I'm just trying, like, it's part of what I'm, writing as part of the pros with this team, or with such a deal, is that it kind of checks 2 birds. It kills 2 birds with 1 stone, right? You have a team that's struggling to sell tickets, sell season tickets, whatever. I think bringing back a guy like Patrik Laine helps you achieve that. To what degree, I'm not entirely sure, right? I think it does offer quite a bit of excitement, though, to have him return to the city that drafted him. We're on a team and a fan base that still likes him a lot and thinks he probably was run out of here, not because he wanted to leave, but because others may have not wanted him to be around.
Internal combustion within the dressing room, which has been documented.
Yeah, so we have that. And on the flip side, okay, what does this team need right now? Well, the team at some point needs to score a bit more. I mean, I think that's part of the thing. we're not going to argue here. I'm not going to make the argument Patrik Laine is a great defensive player. He never has been. There's nothing that would suggest that's the case. But he brings size to your top six, and he brings still a world-class shot to both your top six, to a smart player. Let's say, I think he could help Cole Perfetti look really good, even though Cole Perfetti already looks really good by himself. I think at center, he could, if Cole Perfetti plays center, I think Cole Perfetti, with his IQ, finding Patrik Laine, who's really good at finding open space, it's a match made in heaven, I think, for both of those players because of what Perfetti can do. Problem is, they're going to need somebody on that second line, and it maybe has to be Laine, that has to go down and get the puck, right? This is the reason why Gabe Vilardi is on the top line. It's because Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele aren't the guys that are going to get the puck. It's Gabe Vilardi. Can Patrik Laine play that style of game? This is sort of the knock against him. He's a bit, I think Mike Ripe called him a freelancer, right? He doesn't always buy into the sort of the team game and that sort of thing. But he has the size. He has the ability to score. And what is one of the worst parts of this Jets team right now?
The power play.
The power play, exactly. I mean, it speaks for itself, right? His goal-scoring ability on the power play speaks for itself. To have that option again, I think we know exactly. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with Patrik Laine. He gets open like Alexander Ovechkin gets open. He's hard to cover, and when he doesn't get covered, well, now you got Kyle Connor, you got Mark Scheifele, you got Gabe Vilardi, and you got Josh Morrissey at the point, and exactly. And so I think it's worth the risk. I do, and I think if Patrik Laine I think it shouldn't be understated that going into the player assistance program, we saw these things early on, but you'd think, young guy trying to get the league. Like, we almost, I don't want to call it, we didn't glorify it. But it was one of those things where, like, he was really tough on himself, and we talked about it, right? But it was almost like, he's finished, right? This is the way Finnish players are, or whatever. I don't think anybody really kind of took the time to really kind of like, this is actually a detriment to his career, and it kind of caps his ceiling, right? I think if he's gotten through some of those things, and he was in the program for a while, and I think he said his quote on Instagram, I believe, when he went in, he's like, to the extent that hockey has been his passion, but to be able to be at his best, he needs to take some time to focus on himself. Well, this guy's been through a lot, right? He's been through 4 straight seasons with significant injuries. He missed a lot of time, and then on top of that, his dad passed away, and so he's always been hard on himself. And some guys are able to do that and extract more from themselves. Other guys, I think it beats them down a little bit. And so if he's worked that out and is a better player because of it, I mean, I think I think it's worth the risk, not just because of that. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think his injuries are the thing that you're going to want to, that you have to the Jets need to do their due diligence on. But for a guy, if you can get him at a pretty cheap deal, buy low, as we've talked about, and fit him into this roster right now, maybe ridding yourself of a contract that that you could get rid of in this trade, make him work, sign Perfetti. I think you have a pretty good offense next year, and if you can get Patrik Laine, if Scott O'Neill can talk to Patrik Laine and get him to coach him to play a certain style of game, you're not getting anybody else, and you're definitely not getting anybody else on the open market who has that natural ability to score the way that Patrik Laine does.
Well, and there's a really interesting article that I saw, from an analytics perspective in the last couple of weeks about the importance of the power play for top teams. And, you look at a team like Winnipeg that was the best team in the league at keeping the puck out of their own net. Yeah. What an improved power play would have made, like how much of a difference that would have made. Well, I mean, Rick Bowness said himself, the power play was better. They have a very good chance of winning the President's Trophy last year. Yeah.
Never mind the playoffs where it couldn't go, and Colorado's power play was automatic, right?
That was, listen, I mean, the series was over once that started happening. And so I've joked before that if I'm Davis Payne, I get wind that this is a possibility. I'm in that coaching seminar that they had last week going, bring 29 here and let's get this power play going again. It should be great. By the way, this is just, I'm keeping an eye here on this basketball game. Serbia is up right now by 14 on USA. It's crazy, 39-25 for the Joker and the Serbs, who got crushed by them in the last game. Wouldn't that be something if they were able to pull this one off?
This is the reason why these teams, these basketball teams, these countries have done well, because they play as teams. And this is the problem. Like this isn't the dream team anymore. This isn't 92 anymore. This is now a time
the rest
where
of the world can compete.
They can compete because they play like a team. And the U.S. is just the NBA. I mean, the NBA has always been ego driven. I mean, look at all the stories about the dream team and why Isaiah Thomas wasn't on the team and all that stuff, right? But at the same time, I mean, I just think they don't play like a team the way that they should, and that's the reason why we've seen these teams, Spain or Argentina or whatever, these teams come up and really, but they've obviously have talent. Don't get me wrong, there's a ton of talent there too. But anyway,
they were a minus 2,500 favorite to win this game today, and they were 15.5 point favorites, and they are down by 14 right now.
Maybe
keep an eye on that. Scotty, great stuff as always, folks. Check out the Jets mailbag in the Winnipeg Sun right now. And by the way, Billeck, you should stick around. You are definitely going to be interested in this next interview we've got coming up.
Talking Formula One?
No, I'm talking with Stephan Peterson, the director of the Death Tour, about the legendary run through northern Manitoba. I can't wait to see this movie. He's in the green. I can see him in the green. I am excited for this. This is the type of I enjoyed ECW. I enjoyed some of the crazier stuff. I've watched these crazy ones down south where they're absolutely, it's just wild. It's people say wrestling isn't real. Well, that stuff, there's so much blood. It's just crazy. This is, I'm enjoying What's
this.
real is the impact that they make in these communities. I saw Tony Condello at the event. What was it, a couple weeks ago that I was involved in for that Wrestling United. And anyways, I've been looking forward to this for a few days. So we're going to get to that right away. Thanks for doing this, buddy. And we'll talk to you next week.
Yep.
Good stuff. There is Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun. All right, don't go anywhere. We're going to come back and talk about the Death Tour. But first, a big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones. The ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
To our friends at Little Brown Jug, and a great place to grab a Little Brown Jug outside, of course, their amazing patio downtown in the Exchange District is the Beer Can, the biggest and most beautiful outdoor beer garden. Sort of started during the pandemic and has now turned into the place to go for outdoor drinks during the Manitoba summer, with the best of Manitoba and Winnipeg's local beer scene, other great drink options, and the amazing food from the evil geniuses behind Cosmos Food Cantina. You can also pop by and get amazing food from them at Next Door in the heart of Wolseley at 116 Sherbrooke. And hey, if you're getting ready for maybe a beach trip on the weekend, why not pop by Hoagie Boys at South Osborne and grab some of their famous monster sandwiches to take you through that beach day. Open every day at 11:30 until 7 o'clock. And of course, the beer cans open 12 to 12, 7 days a week. Shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. Summer is still here, and if you're planning a fun weekend, why not add disc golf to the mix? Some soccer, softball, baseball. They've got it all to take advantage of it. A huge Yeti section for you campers out there. And of course, the best selection of licensed merchandise from all the big leagues, including the new NFL gear coming in by the day. It's all there at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg on Insta for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. The CFL is back tonight, and you know what that means. You want to get together to watch the Riders in Ottawa go at it, or maybe the Olympics. No better place to do it than your local Boston Pizza. ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, the big game on the big screen. There's no better place to get together with the gang for the big game than Boston Pizza. And if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right. Longtime listeners have known we love wrestling, and there's something really unique about the indie wrestling scene here in Winnipeg. But nothing is unique as the legendary Death Tour. The young wrestlers and wrestling hopefuls touring the most remote areas of Manitoba on what is certainly the most grueling tour in wrestling. And that is the topic of a new movie coming out called The Death Tour. And Stephan Peterson joins us now, the director of the event. It is great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for doing this.
Andrew, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
We've heard about this. I mean, if you've been involved in wrestling, I mean, you know, guys like Jericho, of course, is from here, Kenny Omega. I mean, there's a great, rich wrestling history here. Nothing is notorious as the Death Tour up to northern Manitoba, which Tony Condello started all those years ago. How did you get involved with this? Like, what was the genesis of the idea even to make this movie?
Yeah, Andrew, I wasn't much of a wrestling fan kind of growing up. Of course, I was playing on my neighbor's trampoline and, DDTing them for, I was vaguely aware of wrestling, but certainly had no knowledge of kind of the road it took to end up on TV. And about 8 years ago, I was in northern Manitoba. I'm from Quebec. I'm from Montreal. I was in northern Manitoba on another project, and I happened to be in the town of Wasagamack one night when wrestling came to town. Now, having no other plans that evening, I was about to sleep in the back of my SUV, along with a few other crew members. We were just kind of eating a cold can of Spam, just getting ready to recline our seats for the night. A bunch of kids just kind of pop up out of nowhere and swarm the local gym. So I kind of step out, find out that wrestling had come to town, which I was certainly not expecting, bought a ticket, met kind of Tony real quick, and watched the show, and was kind of immediately drawn by these two worlds that were very unfamiliar to me. That is the world of wrestling and of course these communities, these fairly remote, isolated First Nations communities, which I was just passing through really quickly. And as soon as I saw kind of the connection between these two worlds that were, vastly different, two worlds that I knew nothing about, but that clearly had a connection, I had to find out more. So I then spent the next several months kind of learning about wrestling, speaking to wrestlers, finding out. I just kind of stumbled upon this legendary tour, learning about Tony Condello, and then finally being connected with him, and the rest is, I guess, history.
You mentioned, anyone that's been up there knows how isolated these communities are. I've got to ask you, what were you doing there?
I was filming Ice Road Truckers. I was up there on the winter roads, and we were just kind of delivering goods into each of these towns, and so one night, just kind of stumbled upon it.
There's two sides.
So we just lost your mic there. I don't know if the cord came out. I have to put it back.
Well, I hear the director.
One sec. Yeah, sorry. I don't know. His microphone popped out there.
1, 2, 3. 1,
yeah,
2,
we got
3.
you back. Yeah,
Okay, sorry about that, Stephan.
All good.
There's two angles of this that I'm sure are covered that I'm very interested in. The first, we'll talk about the wrestlers. In that, you talk to anyone that has been involved in one of these tours, this is not, they're not flying first class WWE style. And in a lot of ways, it is a proving ground for young people to see, frankly, if they can hack it. What did you learn, and what will people learn in the film about the sacrifices and, what these young wrestlers trying to establish themselves are looking for, expecting, and getting out of the Death Tour?
That's what really drew me to wrestling as a craft, a sport, career, was what these wrestlers go through. And, what I quickly learned was the world of indie wrestling, how hard it is, It's this kind of mix of arts and sports without like a real clear path on how to make a real living off of it. And what really drew me to these people were to the sport of wrestling, was this art form, was the people who decided that this was it. This was their life. This was their calling. And they'd sacrificed time and money and career and family and loved ones and time off and everything to really just take a go at it. And this trip in particular is one of those proving grounds, especially for kind of central Canada, that is known. I mean, like you said, wrestling greats like, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, Edge, Lance, Storm, Rhino, all these big names had kind of been on this tour earlier in their careers, had kind of cut their teeth, and this tour had become a badge of honor for them. And so, I was really drawn about this lifestyle that of being an indie wrestler, trying to kind of make a name for yourself, and this tour in particular, which for many was a stepping stone.
I mean, and they're not getting rich from this, that's for sure. Sleeping on floors in gym basements, and there's all sorts of things that can come up, whether it is mechanical, with trucks. Like just the logistics of what Tony's put together, frankly, is insane from the get-go.
That's right. It's a 2-week trip to and through very remote communities across northern Manitoba. And if your truck breaks down or whatever happens, the 2 weeks can become 3 weeks. And if if you're not smart about it, you can spend a small fortune buying food up there. Cost of living is very high in these communities just for basic essential goods like food. To clean, like a flat of 10 bottles of water was $150. There's a snippet of that in the film. So yeah, you can break the bank on this trip as well, and it's grueling. There's no accommodations. You're sleeping in your truck. You're sleeping on the floor of gyms or community centers. It's a tough trip, but it's a beautiful one too.
The other side of it that I've had lucky enough some opportunities in the past to go up to some of these communities. Working with the hockey team in town before, and it's very impactful. If you're from the city and you don't know how some of these communities are living, just how isolated they are, and then you go in with a player and like a mascot from the other team and see the reaction. It definitely impacts you. Listen, I know how popular wrestling is in the Indigenous community. I've been to some of the other events, certainly not as remote, but seeing how special of an event it is, it's exponentially more when you very rarely have anything coming into your community. What's the impact of these aspiring wrestlers in this tour coming to places like you were, and what did you see amongst the people in the communities when they got the big wrestling show at their hall?
My understanding, what we'd heard in town was there's not a ton of big shows that come into these communities throughout the year. They're only accessible by road about a couple weeks a year when the lakes freeze. And Tony's been bringing this tour into these towns for about 50 years now. So there's generations of fans who've been going to these shows and tracking the careers of many of this tour's alumni, including Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. And even some of the wrestlers who still go on this tour now, like Kat Von Hees and Bobby Shank and Massive Damage, and now Sage Morin and Levi Knight, and many of the wrestlers who are kind of newer to the tour. I'd been on the tour twice now, and a few of the wrestlers had kind of kept going back because it's an incredible experience, and the kids remember. The kids still have the photos from years ago, and it's very significant. Not only from a storytelling standpoint, but the relationship that these kids form with the wrestlers. The wrestlers go to the schools, they hang out before and after the matches, as much as time permits. So yeah, there's a real beautiful kind of bond that's formed between the kids or the communities as a whole and the wrestlers.
Now, Stephan, I got to ask you about Tony Condello. What did you hear first about? If you're not really connected with it, you probably don't know his name. He's still a Winnipeg guy, although his name resonates throughout the world of wrestling for this exact reason. And then once you met him, what was your takeaway from Tony? Because he is one of the most colorful figures in a sport full of a lot of color.
Well, you know what? Of course, I'd heard the stories about Tony. You know, I was a little bit scared and nervous and apprehensive to meet him at first. I mean, he's obviously a big name. I mean, you know, he's a mover and shaker in the business, and a lot of people, obviously everyone has a high regard for him. And when I met him, he was sizing me up at first, but once I finally kind of got to know him after months, years of making the film, I realized, he's just really, don't tell anybody, let's just keep this between us, but he's a very sweet, softy on the inside. I speak to him now almost daily, and he's a sweetheart. But
he won't that out, but it is true. He's just don't tell anyone about that side of it.
Yeah.
The movie is called The Death Tour, and it's screening in Winnipeg, and you're actually going to be here in the Peg for the screening tomorrow,
right,
along with the co-director. Tony's going to be there. A few of the wrestlers are involved. This is exciting because I was looking, and there was advanced screenings, I think, into September, in Toronto, Montreal, but we're going to have the opportunity to see this here in Winnipeg coming up this week.
Yes, we've been working for 8 years on this film, and tomorrow it premieres its theatrical kind of debut in Winnipeg, which I'm incredibly excited about. I mean, it's where most of the wrestlers are from. It's where Tony's from. It's where the tour takes place. Tomorrow's a big day. I mean, we've been working long and hard for this, making a product and a film that, will do justice. And we know the locals, the wrestling scene, and the communities will be proud of and entertained and moved by. So yes, tomorrow I'm flying out in a couple hours. I'm flying out tomorrow morning early. I wouldn't miss it. I'll be there with Sonia Ballantyne, who's my co-director, who's from the communities, from northern Manitoba, also biggest wrestling fan, and looking forward to reconnecting, in person with Tony and a bunch of the cast. So yeah.
Now I'm just looking right now, the screenings this week. So tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, and then as well on the 15th and the 18th at Dave Barber Cinematheque. Once these screenings are finished, I know you've got, probably putting this, I'd imagine, in some film festivals or whatnot. I mean, what's next after this week for the film? And at what point will it be widely available, and where will that be? Like, how will people watch it if they can't get to Cinematheque this week?
Yeah, well, it's definitely it's on the festival circuit in the States. So anyone, who follows this is from the States or goes to the States. It is currently, we've submitted to Countless, and we're getting 2 responses back this last week. We're still working out the details. It's been touring the States already. It will be airing on CBC. So the film's 90 minutes. CBC is airing a 45-minute version of the film starting on GEM towards the end of the month. APTN will be playing the full version of it as well, the Fight Network too. So, you will be able to find it online on GEM. If you have APTN, you'll see the full-length version. Same with the Fight Network full-length version. Both versions are great, of course. And then after that, we look forward to seeing where this film kind of goes next. We're working really hard to make it accessible to everybody, and for it to find its audience and to get to wrestlers and wrestling fans, around the world. So we know there's wrestling fans everywhere, is what I've come to learn. So we're trying to get it to all you in one way or another.
From the folks that have seen it so far, how's the response been?
It's been great. Yeah, it's been wonderful. We had a huge screening in Edmonton on Tuesday night. I think there's about 200 people packed the house there. I mean, a lot of not many dry eyes left. I mean, it's about wrestling, but it's a film about a lot more. Those who go see it will get to see it tells a universal story about kind of hardship and overcoming hardship and finding your calling, and how that can kind of help you through a hard time. And it also opens your eyes for many Canadians like myself to a part of Canada that too rarely is represented on screen, other than on the news. And it kind of it's been very well received by the wrestling community as well, which is really important to me. So.
Hey, I just have to ask you, you're working with Ice Road Truckers, which I'm sure took you all over the place, but what were you thinking when you went up to northern Manitoba for the first time? Did you have any thoughts on, where you were going, what this area would be like, and what did you take away from that before you even got making this documentary and movie?
I mean, it was a part of Canada that I had never experienced, knew little about, and I realized that there's communities like, there's these very remote, isolated First Nations communities across the country that I just had not heard much about. And I really got to meet a lot of really wonderful people, and I wanted to go back. So when I kind of came across this, I was like, here's my chance to at the very least get to go back and meet the people in these communities and learn more about the culture. And as a result, I have, we've kept relationships with everyone in these communities and hired people in each town to work on the film with us, and we're still in touch. So yeah, definitely have been able to make some friendships and relationships that we still, hang on to today. Yeah.
Well, listen, congratulations on getting to the finish line. I know that there's going to be a lot of excitement in this community, both wrestling fans and just fans of movies and great stories when this debuts tomorrow night. Travel safely here, and best of luck with this. I mean, I can tell you, we're looking forward to it. A lot of people in the chat really excited to see it. We will put the trailer, which you can watch right now. We'll put it in the description of this YouTube video. So if you want more information on what is to come, check that out. Give you a couple-minute glimpse of what the film is all about. And look forward to seeing you here in the Peg this week. And again, Winnipeggers, you've got this week to see it at the at Cinematech. And again, if you want to find out more online, just go to deathtourdoc.com for more information. Stephan, thanks so much. Congratulations on the film. Can't wait to see where you guys go from here, and have a safe trip here to the Peg tomorrow.
Andrew, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. There it is, Stephan Peterson, the director of the Death Tour. And this is going to be so neat. As they say, we've got, a lot of the locals. I saw our guy Bobby Schenk in the movie. He's got some good times in there. Tomorrow, the Matriarch, Sage Morin, Sean Dunster, Massive Damage, and Levi Knight, who've all been part of the tour and the movie, are going to be there. Tony Cantello as well, in a post-screening Q&A with Stephan and co-director Sonia Ballantyne. Reem, we've talked about this before. I've been looking forward to having that interview happen, and got to tell you, I'm going to try and get out to Cinematech in the next week and see this before before it kind of comes out on television.
Yeah, very cool opportunity to check out that screening tomorrow. He's going to be here, as you said, Tony Candello, a legend in the wrestling business, but a lot of opportunities August 9, 10, 11, 15, 18. A little indie film action. Dave Barber Cinematech, only $10.50 us, and $8 ticket for students and seniors. So pretty reasonable for a movie these days. I don't go to a lot of movies anymore, but that seems like a great night out. And we saw the trailer there. I posted it, and looks like an incredible story, as you said. Not a dry eye in the house after the screening in Edmonton.
Well, I just have to say, I had a little chat with Tony Candello at the Wrestling United event a couple weeks ago, which, by the way, is back October 10th at the Franco-Manitoban Cultural Center. Mark that down. It's going to be a great week. Jets opening of the season with that sandwiched in the middle. Tony is such a beauty. And the way he interacts with everyone within the wrestling community. I mean, he really is a bit of a legend. And this tour is legendary. Jericho's talked about it. I mean, there's all sorts of stories, in podcast form and interviews about guys talking about the Tony Candello Death Tour. But now we're going to see it for our eyes, from behind the scenes, what happens around it. So that is debuting tomorrow in Winnipeg, Cinematech. Go to deathtour.com for more information, deathtourdoc.com for more information. We've got a lot to get to with the Cool Bet lines right away. Shout out to the Gold Eyes. Zach Renninger, another shutout yesterday, as the Fish, who have really come around from that tough start, now 9 games above 500, are keeping it moving. Another 1-0 shutout. The Gold Eyes lead the league in complete game, or just in shutouts in general. Now 9 on the season. Shutouts thrown. That's 3 more than the next team in the entire association. I'm not sure we've ever seen a pitching staff for the Gold Eyes like Logan Watkins has put together so far this year for his team. Fish continue on the road. They're at it in Lincoln tonight looking to break the brooms out and keep it rolling. And of course, next week, the team is back. Don't forget, Bark at the Park is on Sunday, August 17th. And the first 1,000 dogs through the gates will be treated to a complimentary treat bag, courtesy of Petland and Goldeye sponsors. They've got a special. The jersey that they're wearing is going to be just all pooch pics. You got to see this. It's up on the Goldeye's Twitter feed right now. One of the coolest days of the season so far. So if you're going to make it one time to Blue Cross Park, think about that August 17th game. And again, the Friday night game, a week tomorrow, is going to be the night that the Fred Penner bobblehead is going to be given out. So pretty cool week coming up for the Goldeyes. But the bottom line is they're playing some great baseball right now. Of course, the Assiniboia Downs is back on Monday, and we'll be getting back to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday racing schedule for the rest of the season. Big week this week with the biggest one of the year, the Manitoba Derby on Monday. We'll be back, and I will make my quest to get back on top, although it's going to take some work because Remis has been red hot handicapping the races for the last few weeks as he completely made up the large margin that I had and then did that himself. So, but asdowns.com for more information on everything happening when the track is not live, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for live racing next week. And again, a huge shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Got back on Tuesday. I talked about it yesterday, but just, honestly, favorite 3 days of the year. Every year, the staff and the hospitality, the food, everything was just first class. And obviously the fishing, we had glorious weather. It was just amazing. Shout out to our guy, Kieran. Did a great job guiding us and helping even amateurs like me get onto some beauty fish. AikensLake.com for more information. Might be able to squeeze you in before the end of the year, but now booking well into 2025. Information at that is at AikensLake.com. All right, quick Breezy Bend golf report. Nothing to tell you about the PGA Tour because the Wyndham Championship will not be played today because of Tropical Storm Debbie. They're hoping to get out tomorrow and hopefully get this thing in before Sunday. Very problematic to have a late finish for this one because, of course, the FedEx Cup playoffs begin next week. But the Olympic women's golf is going on right now. And a wild day today. It was Celine Boutier who had a 7 under par first round. She came back big time, a 76, 4 over. She's now 3 under par. The leader at 8 under is Morgan Metro of Switzerland. 1 shot up on a Chinese golfer, Runan Ying. World number 1, Nelly Korda, was rolling today after an even par first round. And then she had a quad bogey on the 16th hole. Still ended up finishing at 2 under par, 6 shots off the lead, but would have been right there without that disaster. As far as the Canadians go, Brooke Henderson and Elena Sharp both at 3 over par, 11 shots off the lead, and we'll need to have massive third rounds to get into the mix to be in the mix for a medal on Sunday. Shout out to Breezy Bend for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you're looking for an amazing long-term golfing home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses, contact our pal Corey Johnson for more information on 2025 membership at the clubhouse. You can always check out more online on Breezy Bend at breezybend.ca. All right, Remo, let's get to the Coolbet lines, and we are back at it with the Canadian Football League tonight, which should be fun. The Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Ottawa Red Blacks going at it. By the way, just a quick, before we get to the CFL, they are at halftime of this USA-Serbia game. The Serbs have an 11-point lead at halftime, 54-43. And if you can believe this, Remis, even with the 11-point lead, they are 4.5-point underdogs in this game, and you can still get them at plus 163 to complete the shocking upset.
Yeah, I had turned it on. I was watching the track and field. Amazing race in the 400-meter hurdles. But switching to basketball, shocking that USA would be down. It would be a big shock, big disappointment for them. I kind of would like to see USA lose because I think they would go nuts. Like the media down there, if they.
You think we were pissed off about losing in the quarters?
Yeah.
Imagine this team losing in the semis and then having to play for bronze.
Well, I would be like, what year was it in the bronze? Nagano, where they trashed the room after the hockey team. So I'm curious. Playing the bronze in those games. I mean, I'm not saying USA is going to win, but it's always such a disappointment from not getting gold. It's hard to bring yourself to do it. But France did advance to the gold, so you would be playing the host country. What a game that would be. So all eyes on the basketball right now. Team USA looking to. I'm sure they will do it, but hey, you never know. That's why they play the games. They did lose the South Sudan in the tune-up game by, was it 1 point? I don't think they definitely weren't given 100% in that one. But
South Sudan no longer part of the mix right now, but the Joker and the Serbs are 11-point deficit for Team USA going in. As I said, if you think Serbia can finish the job with the 11-point lead, plus 163 to win right now live at Coolbet. As far as the CFL goes, it is the Riders and Red Blacks tonight, and this line is now 3, which is very surprising to me. I thought that this would maybe be closer to a pick 'em. I'm taking the Riders tonight. It's like a built-in emotional hedge, Reem. You either win your bet or the Riders lose. So it's a win-win either way. Riders plus 126 on the money line. I think they're a live dog tonight. And the Red Blacks minus 149. Moving on to tomorrow's game, the Argos are now 1.5-point favorite and are now minus 130 on the money line. Calgary plus 107. The Ticats remain 7.5-point underdogs in Montreal on Saturday. And then the game, I'm really looking forward to this game tonight. Sunday's game is going to be an awesome watch. Trey Ford and the Elks back at home after their first win of the season, hosting the Lions, but with no VA, with Jake Dolegala starting. And I still can't wrap my head around the Elks being favored in this at 1-7 right now, but this is very much a toss-up. But money line, it's all Edmonton right now, minus 137, and BC plus 113 to get the win on the road.
Yeah, I was really surprised too. I don't think Jake Dolegala is as bad as he showed in that last game. He came in for Saskatchewan, and I remember betting, I think the books were not high on him, and betting over totals on his passing, and he did hit a couple times. So he's capable. They've got great receivers there. We know Edmonton's defense isn't great as well, so I imagine a lot of points going to be scored in that one total. All the totals are kind of the same. That one's a 49.5. So we'll see how it goes. BC, they need to, keep pace. Maybe with Saskatchewan, if Saskatchewan wins. They have Vernon Adams got to tread water a bit till he comes back. And they do play the Bombers the next. On the 18th, we don't know much about Vernon Adams' status going forward for that one, but big one on Sunday. Could the Elks put themselves in the playoff race? 1-7 Elks. What a league this is, Hustler.
I'm here for it. The crazy thing is the Bombers haven't played Edmonton yet, and they could be a very different team in the second half of the season when the Bombers have to play them than they were as that pitiful outfit with Chris Jones at the helm earlier on this year. If you just go to the main page, right at the top, we've got the combo cards, and we put together a few. We've got a Lock Shop CFL special. As I said, I love Saskatchewan. We weren't going to put it as an even number. So we're actually getting the Riders for this one, for our Lock Shop parlay, at plus 3.5 in Edmonton. So even if they were to lose by a field goal, this would be a winner. So Saskatchewan plus 3.5. We're taking the Argos to win on the money line in the rematch between Toronto and Calgary. Calgary winless on the road, unbeaten at home. Until that changes, we'll be fading Calgary on the road. So we've got Saskatchewan plus 3.5, the Argos to win, and then we've added the over 49.5 in the Elks BC game on Sunday. That one's boosted from plus 488 to plus 561. They've also got the home teams to win. So Ottawa, Argos, Alouettes, and Elks boosted from plus 549 to plus 631. The DGen Den from the lock shop is in there. We've got a over 7.5 Marlins Reds, over 8.5 Yankees Angels, and over 2.5 MLS Sounders and Galaxy. That one's boosted to plus 515. You got some special K props tonight for the game. The Lamplighters, which is from Lacrosse. The Cowtown combo. Calgary Surge to beat the Bandits and the Stampeders to beat the Argos. And then a couple of NFL futures parlays as well from today's lock shop. How about this one? Ravens to win the AFC North, Falcons to win the NFC South, Eagles to win the NFC East. The Birds of a Feather parlay, plus 875 for that to happen. And another interesting one, AFC Beast. Jets to make the playoffs, Dolphins to make the playoffs, Bills to make the playoffs. So 3 playoff teams from the AFC East. That one's boosted up to plus 360. Combo cards are great. They're all there for you right on the front page. And if you do click on the exclusives, we still have tomorrow's the breaking day, plus 250 on Phil Wizard to win the gold medal. And then some other CFL exclusives today. If you just go to the exclusive section, I love the names of these. You Can't Handle the Druth. Drew Brown, 300 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, and the Red Blacks to win. That is at plus 280. Other options right there for you for this week in the Canadian Football League. What's on tap for you tonight, Remo? What are you going to be watching?
That's a good question. Baseball? I'm not sure. No, you know what? I'm going to be watching this CFL game. Red Blacks.
Me too.
Riders. I want to see what happens. I may have some fantasy action in this one. I'm excited to see, I think this is going to be where we're going to learn about these two teams type of game. The baseball pennant races are underway. I got that. I do enjoy the Olympic primetime shows. I think they do a really good job recapping.
It's awesome.
Even if I've seen the races too, I don't mind the way that it's packaged. So I flip between NBC and CBC on that. Maybe I'll fold some laundry as well. I got to get that done.
Ooh.
It's hard to find the time,
The list is growing. Listen, the big story for us here in the Peg is Skylar Park. While we are live on the air talking Olympics, she wins the bronze medal for Canada in Taekwondo. So congratulations from Winnipeg Sports Talk to Skylar and the entire Park family, the first family of Taekwondo. We'll hopefully have her on in the program in the meantime. And we're going to be keeping an eye on what's going on in this USA-Serbia game right now. I don't think any people had Serbia up so early, winning in the second half of the game, but that's where they are right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. And I guarantee you, if USA loses this game, there'll be lots of talk south of the border, and we'll hit that tomorrow. Tomorrow's show should be fun, though. We'll get you ready for the weekend. We'll recap tonight's game in the CFL and get ready for the final weekend of the Olympic Games. All coming up tomorrow at 1 p.m. In the meantime, thanks so much for being with us today, gang. A huge thanks to the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen each and every day. Shout out to everybody listening on the podcast. I hope you're enjoying your summer holidays, but make a point. Appointment viewing and listening tomorrow, 1 p.m., Marble Race on Friday. It's all coming up tomorrow on WST. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow to kick off the weekend.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.